I just realized that I had to adjust the audio because of updates. So we're
Okay.
doing this on the fly. Can I get you to chat for me real quick?
Yeah. Dut, dut, dut. Hello. Georgetown new hire suspended after Biden tweet.
All right. I think that's good. Thank you, babe. All right. You ready to do a podcast?
Yes, I am.
Are you ready for a podcast?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do this. Hello and welcome to Learning the Law, podcast about all things legal and a focus on current events, where we try to teach you things in an hour. My name is Ashley, aka Phoenix Nymphy, and my co-host here, who is the man of the hour and who doesn't have to deal with audio problems, is my husband, Ron. This podcast is purely educational and should not be taken as legal advice. This podcast is based on his interpretation of relevant law, and any opinions expressed are the opinions of the individuals making them and do not reflect the opinions of any firm, company, or any other individuals. Ron is a licensed practicing attorney in the state of California.
Yeah. And I have been since 1999, which was completely last century.
We are now officially on Patreon. Please consider supporting the podcast through there. You can find it on patreon.com/learningthelaw. We've got our first video coming out. It should have been out a week prior. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it done. So hopefully it will be out tomorrow, if I get my butt in gear. And if you would like to sponsor the podcast, please send us an email at twolazydogsmedia@gmail.com. We are currently looking for sponsors and for more content, for more content from us. We will be doing regular TikTok videos on Sundays. It won't be every Sunday. And we will make sure to create a live event when we do go live. But we will be doing all of the stuff that we could not discuss, that we were not able to discuss on the podcast. We will be doing it on TikTok, which means we will open up the newspaper and just talk about our stuff just immediately right there and give our opinions on it. On TikTok, it's more of a just off the cuff experience versus this where we research and discuss things. But welcome on in. Happy Black History Month because it's February 1st. And yeah, that's it for us. Welcome back. It's been a year since we've started this podcast. We took all of January off and it was needed. We were supposed to be back last week. We were supposed to start at the end of January. Unfortunately, we had a loss in the family. And so I needed to not do the podcast on Tuesday. So we're here for February. We decided to start in February instead. So
Yeah,
we're back.
It's like we have Supreme Court hours.
Yeah, exactly. We are, yeah. So we've actually in the last, so just to kind of give everybody a little bit of an update of what all we're doing. So Patreon, we did finally do our first Patreon video where we watched. And as I'm editing, I highly recommend watching our companion video alongside with the movies that we choose for that month. And you can sign up for that over on Patreon. It was a lot of fun. They'll first time doing anything like that, so they'll probably change, as we get better and do better. But it was really cool. It was really fun watching a movie and making commentary on it.
Yeah, I had a good time.
And I am we've got a couple of ideas for more Patreon content. So we hope that y'all will, excuse me, I got the hiccups, join us there. I'm really pushing that today because that's how we fund the podcast. So thank you everybody who does support us. We really appreciate it. There's a lot, man. There's so much. I don't even know where to start. We had quite a few people offer up suggestions on things they wanted us to talk about. One like how war crimes works, which very valid questions and points came up with that. Uh, Good discussion. We're not doing that today. That might be next podcast. That might be next week. Because there's a lot in that. But this week we kind of wanted to talk about the latest Supreme Court news, give you an update on the Supreme Court stuff, give you an update on the things that we've kind of been watching over the last year, like Blizzard. If you are unaware, Microsoft has offered to pay, is now trying to buy Blizzard. And one of the caveats is Bobby Kotick will be stepping down and leaving the company once it's under Microsoft.
And that would still take a couple of years
And
to merge.
it'll still be a few years before that happens. But I just right before the podcast, I just glanced. I didn't get a chance to read the article, but the FTC is investigating the merger because of the fact that it is two big conglomerates merging together. And what the FTC does is they investigate on whether or not companies can merge, and will occasionally say no because it will be too big of a monopoly on the industry. I think they've done it maybe once in my lifetime. Usually they go through.
They do.
They usually go through because money talks. I mean, I feel so like
And
jaded
this
saying that,
particular
but
merger wouldn't make them the number one gaming company.
no,
They'd still be behind Sony and Nintendo.
which they could turn over. They could tell Sony no, because Sony is trying to acquire Bungie, which if Sony is one of the top gaming, those are the three. That'll be the trifecta of the gaming right there. Honestly, of the AAA gaming, that's the trifecta right there.
Yeah.
And you got Microsoft, Sony, and then Nintendo. There you go. There you go. That's what it's going to end up being.
And then hovering on the outside is Electronic Arts.
Yeah. Well, I think isn't EA with? No, it's not. No, it's not with Active. I was thinking EA was a part of Activision, but it's not.
No, one of those three will gobble up EA, and another one will
Absolutely.
gobble up Riot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically PC versus the consoles.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Microsoft is both PC and console. Honestly, the Xbox isn't worth it because all of the games on the Xbox you can get on the computer now.
But you might see a merging of the two platforms.
Well, there's already been a merging of the two platforms. Like Microsoft, like Windows now has you can play Xbox games on. It's already been merged. Like you have like an emulator where you can play it like you're playing it through the Xbox.
Eventually, you won't need the emulator though, because that causes some delay.
I don't know enough. I don't care enough about it to even want to know more. Because I don't.
Okay.
I don't do Xbox, and like I just don't care. Like if it's a game I want to play, it's a game I want to play. I'll play it. The one thing that Xbox has that Sony doesn't have that I know is extremely popular is Halo, and I never got into Halo, so I don't care. It's the only reason why I would have gotten an Xbox, because all the other games that I like to play, it's available on PlayStation. So that's where I'm at when it comes to that.
Okay. Well,
but
I've
they
never
all
been
have
a console guy, so
I know. I mean, I own a Switch and both a PlayStation 3 and a PlayStation 4. So, um, I haven't played any of them because I can't play my PlayStation games like I would like to, and it bugs me because I really want to. Anyway, we're getting off topic. This is a podcast about law, not games. That was the wrong thing to start this podcast off with. We can absolutely talk video games because I mean that's how we met. So that's pretty much. I mean, as far as the thing goes, they're just in research right now, aren't they? Like they're just still doing I don't think they're in trial or anything. Where are they in terms of that case, that specific case of California against Blizzard Activision
Oh,
with the sexual assault? Like where are they in that case?
they're still in what's known as the discovery phase.
Okay, so they're still doing research and stuff. And that's
They should be starting depositions sometime soon.
okay, so that'll be where we'll start getting a lot of good information on what's going on. So depositions will be like interviews with victims and workers and
Testimony under oath.
testimony. Yeah.
You'll see Bobby Kotick have to do a deposition. You'll see
Yeah,
after
that
after
is
Bobby do a deposition. I'm sure Chris Metzen and all those guys will
oh
have to be
yeah. Yeah.
deposed, as well as middle management.
And they can't plead the fifth in a deposition, can they? Or how does that work?
You can always plead the fifth.
So you don't
Well,
have to take the stand.
99% of the time,
So
you
you
can
don't
plead the fifth.
you don't have to take the stand, right, when you're in trial. But when it's a deposition, you have to be there.
Correct.
Period.
Yeah. In the civil trial, you have to give testimony unless it's privileged.
Okay. So
Now,
okay,
they haven't said anything about criminal
right.
goings on. So if someone takes the fifth,
Yeah.
which they could, that's going to alert some people like, what the hell?
Why are you pleading the fifth?
Right.
Interesting. Okay,
Now,
so the reason
just as a side note,
mm-hmm.
as to taking the fifth, if you are offered immunity from crime, from prosecution for a crime,
Yeah, like Cosby.
you don't get to take the fifth.
Okay. So and that's what happened with Bill Cosby, isn't it? That's why he was let out. Because
He was in a civil deposition,
mm-hmm.
and there's an agreement with the DA that the deposition testimony that he gave
would
could
not
not be
be
used in the
criminally.
prosecution.
Okay. Okay.
So it wasn't an all-out immunity, but it was an agreement.
Yeah. It was so he really never was supposed to go. He should have never gone to jail
Correct.
based off of that.
Because if you didn't have that agreement in place, then he could have just answered every question at that deposition. I take the fifth, I take the fifth, I take the fifth. And you'd have absolutely no information that was used to prosecute him.
He's still guilty.
Oh yeah.
And he admitted to it. And I think when it comes to that particular case, I think a lot of people, because jail equals guilt, right? But a lot of guilty people,
in people's mind, that's true.
Right, because they don't realize, and that's what we're here to do, is to kind of separate that, because that case was not a criminal case. So there was literally no reason for him. There would have never been jail. Well, would there have been jail? I'm actually very curious about this now. Okay. Would there have been jail time had they not had that agreement since he admitted to it? Or would they have had to do a second trial and do a criminal trial? How does that work? So I'm actually
He
very.
admitted to it in the deposition,
He
correct?
admitted to it in the. I'm actually not 100% sure.
If he
Um,
admitted to it in the deposition and there was not that agreement, yeah, he could be prosecuted for it.
I actually don't. I just know that he was found guilty. So he was found guilty of 3 aggravated assaults.
Right.
That made you sure beyond a reason.
Mr. Cosby admitted to giving these quaaludes to women, young women, in order to have sex with them. He literally said that in his deposition.
Okay. He said it in the deposition. He was relying on not being able to be prosecuted.
Yeah.
There you go.
And see that, oh man, is it justice? Is that justice? He
I don't know.
admitted to it.
We'll do an analogous kind of thing. You want to get the head of a mob family, right? Say, for example, John Gotti.
Mm-hmm.
So you get one of these lieutenants who does all the hits for him, has killed 20 some odd people. You give him immunity for all his murders just so you can get the head of the family.
Is that justice?
Is that justice?
For those families? Yeah. Then that's that is the dark side of legal and politics. That is why a lot of crap, like, the dealings inside stuff happens, all of the behind the scenes sneaking around and stuff like that, because it's a matter of, do we get this guy or do we get this guy and hopefully cut it off at the head, right? Like that's
Right, but there's always somebody to replace the head.
exactly. And I think that I am not a person who can make who that's a question for the audience. Actually, I'm curious what the audience thinks. Is that justice to give that immunity or not for those reasons? I think it depends. I don't know. I don't have, I would have to think on that. Honestly, I would have to think on that. Anyway, continuing on. We have gone off the rails. Welcome to the podcast where apparently I can't stay on topic today. Well, I've just been interested. This is how it goes. Supreme Court news. Retiring Justice Stephen Breyer.
Yes. 27 years on the court.
So can we first off talk about how when I see this, it just makes me go, ugh, because of all of the crap that we've had to deal with the Supreme Court justice and the GOP cock blocking. Like, this is very concerning. And I kind of skimmed and read articles about he said he told Biden when he plans on retiring, so that hopefully Biden will have nominated and already found his replacement before he retires.
Right. He's going to run out the last of the term.
Yeah.
There should already be someone nominated. The fear is, and of course, after the last 5 years, you will see that if they lose the Senate, Biden will not be able to nominate a Supreme Court justice.
Because they'll hold out until
They'll hold out 2 years.
another election.
There's nothing that prevents that.
Which I don't understand why, because no, I do. I know exactly why, because the GOP just doesn't want to lose power. And that's all it is. So if they're able to hold it out, we're screwed. This country is done.
It's constitutional because the Constitution says that the Supreme Court justices are picked with the advice and consent of the Senate.
Yeah, but when you have half of the Senate who all they want to do is just be complete buttholes to everybody and not give a crap about anybody, doesn't matter. Like, it's
See, that was not supposed to be the way it worked. The founding fathers did not think that it would work that way.
Well, because the founding fathers didn't think that anybody would have contradicting opinions.
See, personally, I think if you choose not to have a vote, you're consenting by omission.
Yeah. By not making, well, I agree.
By not making a choice, you're making a choice.
Yeah. Because it's when you are not stepping up and talking out about the atrocities of, the atrocities of how Black, brown, and indigenous peoples are treated in this country, you're part of the problem because you're not trying to stop it. Those people who just stand there and are like, well, it doesn't affect me. It does. And this is very important, because if we then do not get a replacement for him and GOP takes over again and Trump wins again, then our country's worthless. It's not our country. Well, I mean,
getting back to the Supreme Court, they were able to get Amy Coney Barrett nominated in 27 days.
Right. And she's not even qualified.
So
she's not even qualified to be on the Supreme Court.
They should be able to get a nominee put on the bench way ahead of the midterm election time. Your only problem is going to be Manchin and Cena.
I think Manchin has actually come out and said he approves of Biden's choice. Nominee.
He said he's inclined.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was inclined on the infrastructure plan too until he voted no. It all depends how much money he gets. Because before he voted no on the infrastructure plan, he got a huge campaign donation from, I forget which Republican billionaire it was. But yeah.
Well, that's not shady.
He was bought and paid for.
All of them are. Except for maybe like AOC and Bernie Sanders.
Different buyers, different payers. But
yeah.
I don't think there's a non-corrupt politician.
Even the ones that I like are corrupt. You have to be. You don't have a choice. To get that high up in politics, you have to make deals to get there. Like, it's I don't watch it. I stopped watching it because of Kevin Spacey, but what was that Netflix show? It was exactly
House of Cards.
House of Cards. Yeah. Abso-freaking-lutely. That's wheeling and dealing. That's how you get it. And it's honestly a power play. It's all about power, and Republicans don't want to lose power.
They also are smart enough to know how to use it when they have it.
Yeah. Democrats are too divided to come together like the GOP, which is unfortunate, but that's a fault of being a well-rounded and educated group of people.
The problem is, it's a lesson that they haven't learned over the past 4 decades. You
Yeah.
will get absolutely nothing if you can't come together for something.
Yeah. And I'm like, why are y'all not coming together for the voting rights? Like, you're going to lose your seats because the GOP is screwing all of that up. I mean, they're dismantling the voting. They're dismantling voting rights piece at a time.
Right. And eventually,
I'm not going to have the
maybe
right to vote eventually because of the
not in
way
my
it's going.
lifetime, but I forget which revolutionary said it, but it could hold very true here in this country at some point in time. You just vote with a 10-cent bullet.
I don't know what that really means.
That means it will only take 535 bullets to get rid of Congress.
What?
If you take away enough people's right to vote, they only have one option.
One way of opening up that seat.
Yep.
I don't really have anything to say to that.
No, I'm just saying, if you suppress enough people and they get sick of it eventually, that's what happens.
I mean, I know a lot of people who are kind of at that point now.
I believe the poll said 40% of Republicans think violent change is going to be necessary in the future.
What do they want to change?
See,
seriously, if you are a Republican voter, what do you want to change? The world works in your favor right now.
They want to change it back to the 50s.
And I hate
turn of the century.
I hate to I'm absolutely more on the liberal side of things, but the thing is, liberals also do stuff that, like, we're here to call out all sides, and libertarians are a joke, in my opinion. I'm sorry. All of you are terrible people. You're all terrible human beings. I don't mean libertarians, I mean politicians. Like, all of you. But the thing is, those are the when someone says, well, politicians, they're all terrible. Well, yeah, we all know that. But there are some that are worse, that really need to be taken out of Congress. Ted Cruz is one of them. Joe Manchin is another. Mitch McConnell is another. Lindsey Graham is another. There are more.
There's a guy who has no principles and stands for nothing.
Oh my God. And it just, like, we have to do something. We have to do something. And it's like, I'm afraid that things are going to get physical, but not because people who think like me are getting physical. It's because we have to defend ourselves because the GOP feels it necessary to get aggressive and get angry. Like, the first shot is going to be a Republican. It's not going to be a Democrat. It's not going to be a green person. It's not going to be a libertarian. It's not going to be whatever the hell you think you are. It's going to be a Republican who shoots the first shot. It's not going to be the others because they're the aggressor. The aggressor's the one that starts the fight.
I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm not going to say you're right.
That's just my prediction. Is this me predicting a civil war? Yes. Is this me predicting a civil war in this country in our lifetime? Yes.
We're already, in my opinion, we're already at the status of a cold civil war.
Yeah. Yeah. This is going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years if things don't change immediately. Immediately. How do you change those things? You get rid of Republican people in office.
You get rid of anybody, and I've said this since I was a kid. You get rid of anybody who votes against voting rights.
This, exactly. So that goes...
I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, Independent. They vote for suppression things, get rid of them. They're not American.
If they want to suppress your right to vote and your right to bodily autonomy, that means they should go. Meaning all of the Republican Party and some of the Democrat Party.
And you have to exercise your right to vote while you have it.
Yes.
And if that means you have to drive 50 miles to your polling place, get your ass in your car, do a carpool, do a van pool, do something, but get your ass to the polling place. Period.
If you're gonna miss work, well, work can miss you.
Your vote can miss you. It's illegal for them to stop you from voting.
You get time off work. They cannot fire you for going to vote.
No, now they can come up with another reason to fire you. But they better have some
they better have a good reason.
Documentation of what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot lose your job to go vote. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people when you are poor and you are afraid because jobs, I had a job retaliate against me because the store manager said that he didn't like me because he thought that I disrespected him. I wasn't. I was being cheeky and silly because I was 21 years old in a position I shouldn't have been in as a like a department head. So I had to go through training or whatever. And then they piled, and then immediately after they piled all of this stuff on top of me to try to get me to quit. And I didn't. And then they eventually were able, but it allowed them to find bullcrap to fire me over. Like they said I had 90 things in my department that I needed to fix, and I didn't fix any of them. My paperwork had 4, and I had 3. And the 4th one I was working on, which had nothing to do with me. It had to do with corporate and the way they dispense, product and stuff. It was not my fault. It was literally out of my hands. And I was working on trying to figure out why I can't. It was a certain product that was one of our most popular things, but for some reason, I would order 10 and they would only send me 4. And so we would stay out of stock. Don't even get me started on that whole procedure. So anyway, I got fired because apparently I didn't complete anything that I was supposed to complete, which is a lie. I got fired, and the store manager wasn't even there to fire me. He conveniently stayed home with his son who was sick that day. He didn't even have the balls to fire me.
Right. So people will find a reason to fire you if they want to fire you.
Yeah. So go vote. Don't worry about losing your job. If they want to fire you, they will find a reason and make them fire you, because then you can get unemployment. Don't quit. Yep. Do not quit your job. Make them fire you. So go do that. And if they fire you, like, make sure to always keep the receipts, always keep the documents, everything. Because if they do end up firing you because you go vote, that's illegal. And that could be a lawsuit.
Yeah. And you may want to have on your phone an app that records.
Mm-hmm. Remus, shut up. Every time. He's been fine all day. I've fed him all day. It's when every time we go to do the podcast, it's been a year.
He wants some of the spotlight.
He does. I don't know what it is, but it's always during the podcast.
I know.
So anyway, this kind of feels like a doom podcast to start the year off with, but this is kind of how I feel like this is how I feel in real life. Like, I feel like we're doomed, and we're not. We're not. It is very easy to feel like we are doomed.
Let's steer this boat back to the Supreme Court.
Let's steer this back to what we were talking about and try to get through this. Now,
Biden in his presidential campaign said if a nomination came up, he would select a black woman.
Yes. And a lot of people are angry, and it's the right that are angry that he's specifically going for a black female Supreme Court justice, because they're using that old age argument of, well, there's a lot of, what if there's a white person more qualified than the person specifically that you choose? That doesn't make sense. And you know why? Because there's a lot of black people that are also qualified for jobs that get looked over because they're black. So stop. That argument doesn't work. If you specifically are looking for a type of person, you can go for that type of person. So if you want a black woman on Supreme Court, you look for a qualified black woman for the Supreme Court. It's okay to do that. You know why? Because that's going to put more representation on the Supreme Court. Because right now, there's one black guy on the Supreme Court, and he doesn't even represent he doesn't even represent the black community because he's a freaking Republican.
There are black Republicans.
Yes, a minority, like 0.0001% black Republicans. Black people are not. It's low, Ron. You know it is, because you're voting against your own interest.
A lot of people vote against their own interest.
I know. Okay, I know that black Republicans exist, but it is such a small minority. It is amazing that there's a black Republican on SCOTUS, honestly.
Trump killed one at his own campaign rally.
What?
Herman Cain died of COVID.
Oh, yes.
After attending a Trump rally.
That's right. Yes, I like that you were saying that Trump killed him.
Trump didn't need to have that rally.
No, he didn't. He should be responsible for that. So basically, the Supreme Court does not, what I'm saying is the Supreme Court as it stands does not represent the actual demographic of the United States. It really doesn't.
It's impossible.
It is.
There's only nine positions.
I understand that that's impossible, but not every single one of them has to be white except for one. We need more color. I think we have one.
Sonia Sotomayor.
Okay.
Is Hispanic.
One Hispanic person. One black person. No Asian people.
No Asian people. Trump picked 2 whites.
So yeah, I haven't really looked into the nominee. I don't know much about her. Uh,
There isn't one yet.
there's a front runner. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked too much into the front runner only because I don't know who he's going to nominate, and we don't know for a fact that he's going to nominate the front runner that is being put out there.
Judge
So,
Childs.
yeah, there's a lot of rumors. Somebody had started some thoughts about Kamala Harris being nominated, and I'm like, that's not a thing. That's not something that happened, or
Yeah.
has that happened in the past?
President Taft became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
He chose to become while he was in office, though?
No, no.
Oh,
As he
okay.
was leaving the presidency.
Okay. Well, I, I, I think Harris would probably be a good Supreme Court judge, but I think she's gonna try for the presidential bid. I think that's what she's trying to set up for more than anything. But yeah, there's more than one black woman that can do things. So
Yeah.
we already have one who's the vice president. We're not going to use the same one to also be in the Supreme Court, y'all. There's more black women than one woman.
Yeah. Here's the reason I think he's going to nominate Judge Childs.
Okay.
She was already nominated for the Court of Appeals in D.C. That is usually considered to be a stepping stone onto the Supreme Court.
Okay.
A lot of the Supreme Court justices come from that specific appellate court. So,
oh, interesting.
He's just going to bypass that appellate court nomination and nominate her.
I mean, I don't think Amy Coney Barrett had any kind of decent nomination. She just came straight from a school, right? Like she didn't really have anything.
I think she might have been a judge for a year.
Yeah, like she had no experience, really. So if they try to scrutinize this nominee, just keep bringing back Amy Coney Barrett because she literally has no experience.
Personally, I would like to see whoever the nominee is not be from an Ivy League or elitist school.
I have seen articles about that. How a lot of people are saying it would be nice to see because you can be an attorney from a different type of school.
Right.
There are good attorneys who don't go to Ivy Leagues.
Judges that have gone to the elitist and Ivy League type schools have got us into this mess.
This is also true. I know a lot of really great lawyers and judges in Georgia that are black. If you need a list, I can give it to you, Biden. There's a lot of great people over there. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I definitely am looking forward to seeing who he nominates and learning more about her. And I'm glad that he's sticking to his promise.
I'm glad that Breyer has the foresight to retire now.
Yeah.
After seeing what happened when RBG
died. Yeah.
Died.
May she rest in peace.
Yeah. Because that had never really happened before.
Yeah.
That, the Senate just refused to nominate for so long. The Senate wouldn't confirm anybody. So kudos to Justice Breyer.
And unfortunately, it's just a Democrat replacing another Democrat. So it's not going to really alter, but hopefully he will be replaced with a more leftist person versus another moderate to right person to kind of help balance it out.
It would be hard to nominate someone more leftist than Breyer.
Well, we need to keep that balance because obviously having the extremes is necessary,
Whoever it is, I hope they call out the bullshit from the majority.
Yeah. Well, nominating a black woman, I have no doubt that's going to happen. I'm behind it. I all I can say is I pray for it to go smoothly and it not be a fiasco like during when Obama was trying to do his. And there's not much time left in this podcast, so want
Wow.
to quickly, yeah.
Okay. There are some interesting SCOTUS cases coming up.
I'll let you chat about those, and then we'll wrap up the podcast and see y'all next Tuesday.
One of the more interesting ones is let me get the name of it here. Oh, I think it's Nance v. Ward. Which is talking about how an inmate can challenge the method of execution.
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Interesting.
of states have put a moratorium on lethal injection because there is evidence that it is, quote, cruel and pain invoking, even though you can't really tell because the first drug that they give you just paralyzes you.
Yeah.
So, there is another one where an inmate wanted, at the time he died, he wanted his priest, I believe it was a priest, next to him, praying over him.
I remember that. Yes. I remember that case. And they wouldn't allow it.
Nope.
And
they've always allowed the priest to be in the room next to him and walk him to the chamber, but never be in at the same time. So this is a religious liberty. We'll see how much they go on that, because the current take of the Supreme Court is that religious liberty trumps all.
Yeah. Interesting. That will be really interesting. Huh.
Yeah. And personally, my opinion of the situation is it's not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
So let him have his priest.
Yeah.
Then
I don't believe in the death penalty. I'm sorry. I need a moment because I think that's really sad. I just think that's really, really sad.
Yeah. I used to believe in the death penalty before I became a lawyer and learned how things actually worked.
I used to believe in the death penalty until I, became educated and learned beyond what I grew up. And it was a process. Like it was a process. I think that there are too many people in jail that shouldn't be in jail based off of corrupt cops. And I think that it's not our decision. I think that life in prison is enough because that's not a life. And I think that the people have the ability to change and get better. And I think that everybody deserves that chance. And
economically, it makes more sense.
A death penalty?
No, life.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually cheaper to keep someone in prison for life than to go through the whole death penalty process.
And I don't think that it's right that we have somebody's life in our hands. You're a murderer if you believe in the death penalty. I think you're just as bad as people who murder.
Since the DNA evidence has been allowed in court, you've had 150 people released from death row.
Mm-hmm. Like there's this is, I think it's a case of there's too many wrongs to make that make sense. You know what I mean?
You get other guys that have been
And there are cases,
released 27 years, 30 years in jail,
yeah,
and they
they
could
can't,
have had a DNA test, but it's taken them so long to win the right to that DNA test, and then all of a sudden, the DNA
yeah.
shows that they,
And not all of it is
didn't
because
didn't
people are
do the crime.
corrupt. It's just because people are, they don't, they mess something up. Or it's not just because people are corrupt. There are things where people made mistakes and they inputted something wrong. Or like there's a lot of reasons why, like there are a lot of cases that have come out where it's like, oh, this paper got mixed up and so they definitely went after the wrong person, or this or that. Like there's a lot of reasons
Right. Well, here's another thing.
beyond the
Um,
corruption.
both the prosecutor and the district attorney are supposed to be able to find the truth through the
Yes.
jury system. A lot of the DNA testing that's being requested by these guys that are in prison is always opposed by the district attorney. And I'm going to say this, if the district attorney, if your case is so sealed tight, you shouldn't fear a DNA test.
Well, your job is to find the truth, right?
Right.
Well, if
Right.
that's the truth, then that's your job. If they didn't do it, then okay, then it's time to go look at the next person. And I
And
think that DAs and prosecutors are more, this is my opinion, they're more uh and I think lawyers in general are more focused on winning than
yeah,
actually looking at the truth and finding the truth. They're
that's how
more
you get
focused on
promoted.
winning. Yeah.
That's how
And
you become a judge based on your conviction record. Look at all the campaigns of people running for judge. I've got a 98% conviction rate. I'm
yeah,
going to
but
be tough on
how
law.
many of those convictions are actual truths? Or how many of those convictions got overturned through the appellate court? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
anyway, that's my
I,
opinion. I think the law field, I think that's part of the problem. The law field focuses on winning and not finding the truth. And so that allows for that, it just opens up the way for that corruptness. Like,
you've got another case, where they're going to look at affirmative action at higher education colleges and whether it violates the law. In this
what do they
case,
mean?
whether or not consideration of race, um, and I believe it was an Ivy League school, and it's going to be but what made the student body so biased in favor of Asian Americans that other races were discriminated against.
Wait, is this the case where the school was like, well, in order for us to get more money, we need smarter people. So they started intaking more Asians because Asians are known to be smart?
I don't know if that
Is
is
that,
the
I
case.
remember vaguely talking about something like that. And I'm like, that's kind of screwed up. That's messed up. That's offensive as heck. That's interesting. So what is the actual, what's the case looking at? Can you explain that? Like,
The process of selecting the student body.
okay, so are they saying they're choosing Asian Americans over other people?
Yes.
Okay, because okay. So like Black, Hispanic, Caucasian are
Right.
not being in because they're interesting. So it's a racial case, but not the norm.
Right.
It's usually too many. It's usually white and everybody else.
There's going to be a case, I believe it's called, let me see here,
What was
Kennedy v. Bremerton, where a coach wants the right to pray on the field after a football game.
no?
And he's been fired. And now he's coming back saying he wants his job back. And this has been going through the courts.
You
And
have the right to pray, but they don't have the right to be there with you. And okay, so here's how I look at it. You want to do a prayer ring? Cool, do it. That's awesome. That's what you believe. The students don't have to be with you, though. They don't have to choose to be there. If they want to, they can be there, but they don't have to, right? And so they should be able to walk away. What's the problem with that?
now
Unless your school says don't do it.
here's the thing. One of his players was son of an atheist and
Uh-huh.
also an atheist himself. And he felt that if he was ever going to get playtime, he had to be involved.
Okay, that's
Okay.
understandable.
So we'll see how that
That's
all
going to
gets
be
out.
interesting to see how that plays out, because that shouldn't be okay. They just like kneeling, I should be able to kneel during the anthem. Also, I find it
Right.
weird how much we use our anthem. Like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is weird. Like, even in school, like, it's a weird thing. Like, it is a weird indoctrination thing that we do for patriotism to like,
But
and they do it in the public school. Like, it's evident. Like, yeah.
I
Anyway.
got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How many other countries in the world have a Pledge of Allegiance?
I don't think, I don't know. I don't know.
Homework, Google it.
Okay.
Okay, another case, George v. Madonna, where this veteran, he wanted some disability benefits. He got denied. Later on, it was determined that that agency that denied him, the interpretation of the law was invalid. But a veteran didn't get to challenge it. There was a final decision in this case.
Hmm?
But he's taken up the the case to the Supreme Court to say, "Hey, there's a final decision on an invalid interpretation of the law. I should get my day in court. I need my benefits."
Yeah. Uh, Here's my question. Here's my opinion on that. Did you serve in the military? You're a veteran? You served in our armed forces? You get benefits.
Yeah.
Period. We spend how much money on active duty? Split that in half and give it to the non-active duty and the veterans. All right? Thank you. Bye.
You know, I feel after a certain amount of time serving in the armed forces, you shouldn't have to pay taxes anymore either. But
No.
that's me.
I don't agree
That's
with
my
that because they
opinion.
don't have to pay taxes at all right now.
Yeah,
Well,
they're gonna get their asses shot over in some Middle Eastern war we shouldn't be in.
could you stop cursing?
I said asses.
Yes, 4 times now on this stream.
I didn't realize that was a curse word.
Is it not? I've always been told it's a curse word. Is it not a curse word? Guess we need to determine what's. I have to be squeaky clean for iTunes. Come on.
Well, we can look at iTunes later.
Anyway. Yeah, I think veterans in this country are not treated well. I don't think military at all are treated well. Veterans especially. So that's actually very interesting to see.
Okay.
And definitely it's is near and dear to my heart with an active duty military member in my family. So.
And then finally, there's one called Vega v. Teco. And that involves whether a person can bring a federal civil rights claim against a police officer based on that officer's failure to provide Miranda rights.
Okay. I saw that. I don't quite understand what they mean by that.
Okay. Generally, if your Miranda rights are violated, whatever evidence they find is just thrown out of court. They can't use it. And that's where it ends.
Mm-hmm.
This particular guy wants to sue the officer for not giving him his Miranda rights.
Why? Let it go.
He was denied his civil rights according to the lawsuit. So the Supreme Court is going to decide whether or not.
But your court, okay, all right. Why? Because your everything was thrown out. You didn't do the court thing, so why are you continuing pursuing this? There's got to be more to this, because that doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense to me with this little bit of information. It's like I would be like, all right, cool, I'm out. I would not try to pursue any other damages. That's just weird. That's a weird case. How did it even get to the Supreme Court?
They're taking it up.
That's such a weird case.
Not only that, there's been 1, 2, 3 amicus curiae briefs, the friend of the court briefs filed.
But what point does that serve other than money? Honestly, what point does it serve? Like,
well, don't forget, justice in America is usually money.
Okay, I guess maybe whatever the cop did to it could be. I'm curious as to why he was arrested. I guess that's where we need to start, is the beginning of why he was arrested, what happened, and then see why he chose to go this route, because that's such a weird case to me.
Right. Now we're just giving nutshells here. We're not going in depth.
Yeah.
But if anyone's interested, the case is called Vega, Vega, v. Tekoh, Tekoh.
Interesting. Well, these will be interesting to see. And will we be getting any kind of updates on stuff from last year anytime soon, or it'll be...
They may bring out some rulings come around March.
Okay, we might be seeing some rulings around March. Interesting. All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ready to wrap it up then?
Yeah, good first thing back. Do you want to do the war crimes next?
Yeah, I think we'll discuss war crimes next week, because I'm actually really interested. So one of our listeners, Rough Galaxy, asked me a question about Black Lives Matter protests. So this will kind of give y'all an idea of what we're going to talk about next week, and how a lot of the actions that the cops took against the protesters could be considered war crimes. So can you call it a war crime if you're not in the middle of a war? Like, that got us. So I was asking Ron, and I'm like, that actually kind of brings up, how does that whole process, like, could it? It's a very good question. So we'll be discussing what we learned on that, because that's just an intriguing subject to me. I'm very interested in this, so I'm looking forward to that. So thank you, Rough Galaxy. And if anybody else has any specific things they want us to cover in the podcast, please let us know. Let us know what you want to talk about. We're on Twitter at learningthelaw.com. Thank you so much for learning. Thank you so much for listening to Learning the Law. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share in all your favorite places. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, again, at Learning the Law. And you can find Ron on Necrokijo, that's Necrokijo, and me at Phoenix Nymphy. If you have any questions, please tweet us, comment on the YouTube, or you can email us at twolazydogsmedia@gmail.com. This has been a Two Lazy Dogs production.
Bye, everyone.